Way before the first selfie, the ancient Greeks and Romans told a story about someone who became a little too enchanted with his own reflection. In that tale, Narcissus was a strikingly handsome young man wandering the earth in search of true love. But after rejecting a nymph named Echo, he happened to see his reflection shimmering in the water and fell hopelessly in love with it. Unable to pull himself away, Narcissus eventually drowned, and from that place a delicate flower bloomed, the one we now call the Narcissus. This myth captures the essence of what we now call narcissism, an excessive and sometimes destructive self-focus. But narcissism isn't just a dramatic story or a pop culture buzzword. It is a real psychological concept studied and defined by experts. In psychology, narcissism refers to an inflated sense of self, a belief that one is unusually special, talented, or important. To varying degrees, narcissistic people often see themselves as better looking, smarter, or more deserving than others, and they expect to be treated accordingly. Researchers generally recognize two main types of narcissism: grandiose and vulnerable. There's also narcissistic personality disorder, a more severe and diagnosable form that we'll return to in a bit. Grandiose narcissism is the more recognizable kind, outgoing, dominant, and attention-seeking. People high in this form of narcissism often chase power, influence, or fame, as politicians, celebrities, or public figures. Of course, ambition and confidence alone don't make someone narcissistic. Many people pursue success for genuine reasons, like making a difference or realizing their potential. The key difference is motivation. Narcissists crave the admiration and status that come with success rather than the purpose behind it. Vulnerable narcissists, on the other hand, may appear quiet or reserved. They still carry a deep sense of entitlement, but they're also sensitive to criticism and easily feel wounded. In both cases, narcissism tends to create long-term problems. Because narcissists often act in self-serving ways, they might make reckless decisions, exploit others, or struggle with honesty and empathy in relationships. When their inflated self-image is threatened, they can become defensive, angry, or even vindictive. It acts like an illness that makes the person feel great, but leaves everyone around them drained. When taken to the extreme, this pattern of behavior becomes narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, a clinical diagnosis affecting roughly 1 to 2% of the population, more often men. It's typically diagnosed in adults, since children and teens naturally go through self-centered stages as part of normal development. According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM-5, NPD is defined by traits like an exaggerated sense of self-importance, lack of empathy, entitlement, and a constant need for admiration. What makes it a true disorder is that these traits become so dominant that they disrupt the person's work, relationships, and well-being. Imagine using your family not for love or connection, but as an audience for your ego. Or rejecting every piece of feedback, not because it's wrong, but because it challenges your self-image. So, where does narcissism come from? Studies suggest there's a strong genetic component, though we don't yet know which specific genes play a role. Environment, however, is just as influential. Parents who constantly praise and overvalue their child can nurture grandiose narcissism, while overly critical or controlling parents can foster the vulnerable type. Cultural values also matter. Societies that emphasize individualism, competition, and self-promotion tend to see higher rates of narcissism. In the US, for example, levels of narcissism have been rising since the 1970s, a shift linked to the self-esteem movement and growing materialism. And while social media hasn't been proven to cause narcissism, it certainly gives narcissists a stage to perform, a way to chase likes, followers, and validation. Can narcissists change? Yes, but it takes effort and humility. Therapy, mindfulness, and genuine acts of compassion can help break the cycle. The hardest part is that true self-reflection requires looking in the mirror. And for a narcissist, that's not always a reflection they're ready to face.